Hello, gorgeous humans, and welcome back to another episode of Your Power. I am so excited to have you here as always. And if you are watching this episode on YouTube, you will see once again, we are in a new location. I don't know how this is going to go because I can sense it is very echoey in here. But basically, I am in this space. This is a little like office space at the uni's innovation campus. So because of the schedule that I'm on, because of all of the things that I am doing in my world right now, I actually am planning to spend today smashing out a bunch of podcast episodes, getting really intentional with what I want to talk about, when I want to talk about it. I have sat back and really pre-planned the month ahead in terms of the conversations that I want to have, and I've done the work to pre-plan all of it and get really intentional. And now I'm sitting here and I am smashing out some episodes because you guys are one of my highest priorities in this business. This podcast is one of my highest priorities. It is a way for you to get information and understand and start to implement and change your life at a no cost perspective. So this is something that I needed to prioritize. And so having a look at my schedule, having a look at, all of the things that I'm fitting into my days, it just makes much more sense for me to set aside a full day to record this content for you, to get this done for you. And then that way it's all good for the month ahead. You have got many, many things happening. Now, if you haven't already noticed, there was a little sneaky extra episode dropped on Monday morning inside of your feeds, inside of your Power feed. And that is a new little segment that I have included in your weekly sessions. So we are actually going to have 2 drops every week now, and I'm really excited about it. I get a lot of questions across all of my spaces, whether that is YouTube comments, whether that's in my DMs, whether that is in my private containers, whatever that looks like. I wanted to bring that here. And you might remember I used to do something very similar where I would get you to submit some questions, submit some listener questions, and I would do a little segment at the end of the episode. But I thought, why not split them up, do very dedicated community question episodes, answer your very specific questions, and have full episodes dedicated to it where I can take a little bit more time to answer them, where I can take a little bit more time to research and look at studies and have a look at the things that you're asking in more detail and give you episodes with more value and more content. So if you haven't yet already, if you did not notice yet already, jump back into your feeds because there is already an episode waiting for you from Monday, and those question episodes will be dropping on Monday mornings, and then we'll stick to our normal episodes on a Friday morning. So the conversation I wanted to have with you for this episode is around dysregulation. And this is a conversation that I wanted to have because I feel like when people start getting into nervous system work or understanding the nervous system, or, when I work with my clients around learning how to regulate your nervous system, there tends to be this trend of seeing dysregulation as like the worst thing possible and seeing dysregulation as the bad guy. And I want to change that. I want to come in here and have a conversation with you around not demonizing dysregulation and actually understanding what dysregulation means. So if you are new here, if this is your very first podcast episode that you're listening to and you're very new to nervous system work, I want to take you through a little bit of a quick teaching around the nervous system first and foremost. Even if you are fully aware of how the nervous system works, this will be a good little refresher before we get into the conversation. And then we're going to talk about what it means to be dysregulated. We're going to talk about what dysregulation actually is. And therefore, from that conversation, we're going to get a little bit of a better understanding around dysregulation and the role that it actually plays for us and why we should not be demonizing it. So, looking at your nervous system, right? Let's go right from the broad perspective. We have 2 divisions of our whole nervous system. We have our central nervous system, which is our brain and our spinal cord. And then we have our peripheral nervous system, which connects our brain and our spinal cord to the rest of our body. Inside our peripheral nervous system, we have our somatic nervous system and we have our autonomic nervous system. And then inside the autonomic nervous system, we have our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic nervous system. And that's what I want to focus on today. So your autonomic nervous system as a whole is the nervous system that's responsible for your involuntary automatic functions. I like to think of the hack as like autonomic, similar to automatic. So the autonomic nervous system is what is in control of all of the systems in our body that we are not voluntarily doing. On the opposite side of the spectrum, the somatic nervous system is the part of our nervous system that is in control of our voluntary movements. So walking or touching a hot surface and moving our hand off it, like all of the things that we actually do voluntarily are part of our somatic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is responsible for those functions that are happening for us without us really needing to control them. So our heartbeat, our temperature regulation, our digestion, all of the things that we don't need to consciously think about for them to happen. So when we're looking at the autonomic nervous system, we are then looking at its two divisions of the sympathetic nervous system, which is also known as your fight or flight system or your fight or flight response. And then you have your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and your digest system. And at any given time, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system are working in balance with each other. They have different roles that they play in the body, and they are responsible for many of the functions that are happening in our body. And so ideally, we want them to be working at a balance. They're both activating, they're both doing their thing, they're both doing it in a balanced way. That's what we know as regulation, right? When they are working together in harmony, when they are both doing the things that they're meant to be doing to keep our system going, they are in regulation, they are in balance. When we are dysregulated, it means that one of those nervous systems is actually activating a significant amount more than the other. Whether that is your sympathetic nervous system or your parasympathetic nervous system, something is out of balance. One of those nervous systems is activating more than it should be or more than the other one is. So you're out of balance, you're out of regulation. So it could be that your parasympathetic nervous system is the one that is overly activated. And this is when we feel, really flat, when we feel really low, when we feel depressed, when we feel really sad, when we are having trouble concentrating, when we are having trouble focusing. It's very likely that our parasympathetic nervous system is the one that is overpowering the sympathetic nervous system here, right? However, more often we are experiencing a dysregulation in our sympathetic nervous system, in our fight or flight response. So when that is in dysregulation, when that is out of balance, those are the feelings of stress, anxiety, feeling heightened. We're in fight or flight, right? Now, we get dysregulated, especially sympathetic dysregulation. I'm going to be talking about sympathetic dysregulation most of this episode because that is what a lot of people are working on when you come to do nervous system work, when you come to heal and work on your nervous system. It's usually from a place of sympathetic dysregulation. It's usually from a place of overly activated sympathetic nervous system. So when we get dysregulated, when we experience dysregulation, usually we are experiencing symptoms of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, panic, these feelings of heightenedness. And your body is activating your sympathetic nervous system. It's activating in a way that's saying, hey, there's something that we need to look at. And the reason that it's activating is because it is sensing a danger, right? Your sympathetic nervous system is there, your fight or flight response is there because it is there to protect us. So when we are dysregulated, when the sympathetic nervous system is activated, it senses some kind of danger. Now, obviously, going back to evolution, this was a really, really important thing to have. It was a really important function of our body to keep us alive and keep us safe. And this is because looking at our hunter-gatherer ancestors, our sympathetic nervous system was responsible for our fight or flight, meaning it would sense danger around us in terms of predators, in terms of things that we needed to fight off, in terms of things that we needed to run away from, right? And it activated our sympathetic nervous system. It prepared all of our physiological responses, and then those things allowed us to act accordingly. So that sympathetic response, that sympathetic activation kept us safe in the wild. The thing is that now our nervous system is still sensing danger. However, the dangers are different to us. where our ancestors may have needed this sympathetic response to run away from a wild animal that was trying to kill them, we now have a sympathetic response for things that we sense as danger. And things that we sense as danger are things that our subconscious mind tells us are unsafe or unfamiliar, or things that we have been conditioned to believe are not good for us or not safe for us or dangerous to us. So those can be things like getting up and talking in front of an audience. They can be things like talking on your Instagram stories. They can be things like going on a date. They can be things like trying a new workout for the first time, right? As we have gone on, we are experiencing different kinds of danger, and therefore our body doesn't really know the difference between whether we're running away from a wild animal or we're getting on our Instagram stories to talk for the first time. It's just danger, and therefore it will activate our sympathetic nervous system. So our body is sensing something that is quote unquote dangerous to us, that is quote unquote unsafe for us, and it's trying to warn us against it, right? It's trying to warn us against that thing to keep us safe, because like I said, it doesn't know that that thing is just right, you getting on your Instagram stories. It thinks that it is equivalent to you about to die, which is great. Our body is trying to keep us safe, right? What it doesn't know is that what it's keeping us safe from is something that's actually stunting our growth towards something, or something that is holding us back, or something that is not allowing us to move forward in business. It doesn't know any of that. It's just trying to keep us safe the best way it knows how. And so that is why when we go to do something for the first time, we meet some kind of edge, we get on our Instagram stories, we get up to talk in front of an audience. That is why we feel those physical cues of rapid heart rate, of rapid breathing rate, of shaking hands, of all of the voices in our head saying, you're gonna fuck this up, right? That's why we experience all of those things, because all of those things are our body's way of trying to warn us and trying to get us not to do that thing, trying to make us either fight or flight that thing. So when we feel dysregulation, our body is trying to keep us safe. That's all it's trying to do. It's not there to punish you. It is not there to stop you from doing something that you know consciously is going to be good for you. It's not trying to stunt your growth. It's not trying to do anything against you. It's trying to protect you. And so the power in moving forward, in understanding dysregulation, in understanding your nervous system, is not avoiding dysregulation altogether. It's understanding it. Right? The power and the aim of nervous system work is not to move forward and go, oh no, I'm feeling dysregulated, let's avoid, right? Or like shaming yourself for feeling dysregulation, or, you know, trying not to feel dysregulated at all. It's feeling dysregulation and then doing the work to understand what your body is trying to protect you from. It's internally thanking your body. It is nurturing your body in going, okay, cool, like thank you so much for what you're trying to protect me from. However, this is just, you know, me trying to get on my Instagram stories, and I can do this. It's okay. And then it's about showing your body that it's safe, right? Then it's about moving forward with that thing that you're dysregulated by and doing the work to show your body that it's safe. So I want you to use your dysregulation as the blueprint to your body. I want you to use the things that you feel dysregulated by as understanding yourself. I want you to love your dysregulation. I want you to take the time to understand your dysregulation, because your body is just trying to look after you. And isn't that beautiful? Like, isn't that so nice to know what your body is trying to do for you? And how much your body is working behind the scenes all of the time to keep you safe and to keep you going and to keep you alive. Like, isn't that so fucking cool to know? The thing is that I see so many people put all of their energy into trying not to become dysregulated, when being dysregulated is just a normal human response. You are never, ever, ever going to be someone who does not feel dysregulated. And if you do, you're probably dead. The moment you stop feeling dysregulated by things, you are probably dead, because dysregulation is a normal, biological, physiological response. We are programmed to feel dysregulated, because that is how our body communicates with us. That is how our body keeps us safe. We want to feel dysregulated. We want our body to be able to warn us of things that are dangerous to us. We want a fight or flight response, because otherwise, when we're in real danger, we'd be fucked. Right? Like if we were to ever actually be chased by a wild animal and we had done all this work to never feel dysregulated again, we would be dead. The animal would get us. Because we do not have a fight or flight response, right? So you want a fight or flight response. You want to feel dysregulated. It's not something that I want you to work towards never feeling again. It's something that I want you to work towards understanding. It's something that I want you to get to know, because your dysregulation is your key to your growth. Your dysregulation is your key to achieving anything that you want to achieve. So I want you to get to know your cues of dysregulation. I want you to understand the way that not only your body, but your brain try and keep you safe, right? Dysregulation, and if you've ever done ego work and understanding your ego responses, they go hand in hand, right? Your ego and your dysregulation are working together to keep you safe. So understand the cues of this. Understand your physiological cues. What do you feel when you feel dysregulated? Do you have an irregular heartbeat? Can you feel your heartbeat going? Can you feel your throat closing up? Can you feel your chest tightening? Can you feel your temperature getting hotter? Can you feel, shaking in your body? What do you feel physiologically? Right? And then understand what your ego response is. Do you go into avoidance? Do you go into overwhelm? Do you go into confusion? Do you go into distraction? Does your body does your ego try and tell you that something is boring? Like, what is it that your body and your mind do when you feel dysregulated by something? And get to know that. Right? Get really, really aware of those cues, because what they are doing is you are doing your life, you're doing your thing, and consciously you decide that you want to do something, right? So what happens is you consciously go to do that thing, and then all of a sudden your body reads that external environment and goes, no, this thing is unsafe, it's unfamiliar. Maybe once upon a time something has happened to you around this thing, and so it has that memory and brings up that memory and goes, absolutely not, we are not doing this thing. Here are all of the physiological things to tell you, fight or flight, man. Like, fucking get out of there, or like fight against this thing, right? And then your ego is working with that and going, okay, cool, I'm feeling all of these things happening in my body. I'm feeling all of these cues telling me not to do this thing. And so I'm going to make excuses not to do this thing. I'm going to tell you all of the reasons as to why you shouldn't do this thing. I'm going to go into avoidance. I'm going to avoid this thing for you. I'm going to tell you that this is unsafe. I'm going to tell you that you're going to make a fool of yourself. I'm going to tell you all of the things that could go wrong here, right? And your dysregulation physiologically and your dysregulation coming from your ego then works hand in hand to build up this wall and stop you from doing that thing, to protect you from doing this thing, to create this barrier between you and doing this thing, right? And then your role moving forward is to start breaking down that wall, right? It's to start reading the cues of why this wall comes up, right? Understand why this thing comes up for you, and then start to understand the subconscious programming that leads to that, right? Is it because you experienced something in the past that didn't go well for you in this experience? Is that why your body is trying to protect you? Is it because, you were once told that this is not a good thing for you to do, and so this is something that your body is telling you not to do, right? What is your subconscious programming around this thing, right? What have you been told? What have you experienced? What have you learnt? What do you know? What is it about this thing that lies within your subconscious that tells you it's unsafe? Or maybe it's just you're doing this thing for the first time and it's unfamiliar to you, right? Understand why these things are coming up for you. Understand why this wall is being built for you. And then regulate yourself in the moment, right? Bring your body back to balance and then do the thing. And you're regulating your body and you're bringing yourself back to balance yourself. You're showing your body that that thing is safe. You're showing your body that what you are doing here is safe, because you are intentionally regulating yourself back into the moment. So taking the deep breaths, rewiring your mind to tell yourself this thing is safe, like whatever that looks like, regulate your body in the moment do the thing, show your body that it's safe. And in the long run, look at that subconscious reprogramming. Look at what you need to rewire. Look at the beliefs that you have around that thing. Look at the experiences that you have around that thing, and understand what it is that you need to do to change your core subconscious programming around that thing so that the dysregulation around that particular thing does not occur anymore, right? Feel the dysregulation. Regulate yourself in the moment, show your body that it's safe, and then move forward, continuing to show yourself that that thing is safe, that that thing is okay, that you're good at that thing, and therefore you won't feel the dysregulation around that particular thing anymore. I'll give you an example. When I was like fresh out of high school, I was one of the captains of my netball club. Of my netball team, sorry. And the netball team was part of a football netball club. And we used to, on a Thursday night, go to the football club and have dinner, all the netballers and all the footballers. And on the Thursday night, they would do a match review or match report, I forgot what it's called. And the footballers would get up and they'd talk about their coming matches and they'd list the teams that were playing and all of the things. One Thursday, I was asked to do that for the netball. And I was like, fuck yeah, great, no worries. I got up, I got on stage, and I fucking froze. Like, I froze. I looked at the footballers and I freaked out and I stumbled my words and I was like frozen and I couldn't get my words and I was like a mess. So much so that a table right there in front of me of like 4 or 5 footballers all started like laughing at me and like talking shit right there. Right? That was traumatizing for me because they were all the older boys. They were like, I was freshly like 18, 19 at this point, and these guys were laughing at me and I was traumatized. And from that moment onwards, I was not a public speaker. I decided that for myself. I was not a public speaker. I could not speak publicly. I was someone who would choke up. I hated it. I could not do it. Funny story though. I ended up dating one of those guys. So joke's on him. Anyway, joke's on me actually for dating him. Jesus. Then from that moment on, I was like, any public speaking situation, I was like, absolutely fucking not a chance. Because that was my experience, right? And so that's what my body remembered. My body remembered this horrible thing that happened to me. And every time I went to speak in a public space, I would be called upon at uni, or when I went to uni straight after school, or I would be like, in a new group situation asked to introduce myself, and my whole body would tell me all of these cues to go, what the fuck are you doing? Look what happened last time, and you want to do this thing again? Absolutely not. Flight, man, flight. Do not do this. So that was something that I had to work on when I started my business. That was something that I had to work on. I started having to do it for Instagram stories and talking on my Instagram stories. I, go back now and look at Instagram stories and I was like this very shy, quiet, timid little mouse because I was so scared. And then I had this idea that I wanted to run networking events. I wanted to run like spray tan networking events. And I remember getting up in front of 20 people and my whole body was telling me like, absolutely not a chance, not happening. And that happened for so long. It was such a thing that was ingrained in me for so long until I understood how to do this work. And so every time I got up to speak, every time I tried to do something, I would either have to, even when I first started the podcast, I would meticulously plan a script. I would restart the podcast episode 5 million times over if I made a mistake. I would experience this to this massive degree, right? Because of this one experience that kept coming up for me every time I tried to do something. My subconscious programming was that experience and that embarrassment and that torture and that absolute trauma from that situation. I went home and cried after that. Like, that was how hard it was for me. So now I still feel it. I still feel it to this day. I was in a tutorial yesterday and we had to go around and say something about ourselves. And I had to do box breathing before I did it because this is still something that's so ingrained in me. But the difference is that now I know how to regulate myself. Now I know how to do the thing anyway, right? So that is an example of like, okay, cool. Here's an experience that my body sees as danger. Right? My body sees as unsafe because of all of the ways that I feel when I go to do this thing. And so what it looks like to reprogram is exactly what I said. Like in the tutorial yesterday, I could see everyone, I could see it was coming around to me, to the circle. And whilst I was listening to everyone else, I was taking deep breaths. I was telling myself in my head that it's okay. You know what you're going to say. You know exactly what you're going to say. And everyone in here is probably just as nervous as you are, right? And so it's not about not feeling dysregulation. It's not about not feeling that thing. Potentially one day, yes, I will be great in just getting up and talking in front of an audience. But that thing is still so ingrained in me that I feel the dysregulation. I sense the cues of my body going, oh, okay, cool, I'm nervous about this, I'm anxious about this because of all of these things that happened. I now need to regulate myself, tell myself that it's safe. The more that I do that, the more that I speak in public settings, the more that I get up and talk, the more that I regulate myself and tell myself that it's safe, the less dysregulated I will feel moving forward until one day I can just get up and speak. And that's how it works. You feel the dysregulation, you understand the dysregulation, you regulate, you teach your body that it's safe. You reprogram your subconscious into that thing being safe. So I don't want you to demonize dysregulation. I don't want you to fear dysregulation. I don't want you to try and not to ever feel dysregulated again, because if you're doing that, you are not human. You are always going to feel dysregulated. What I want you to do is I want you to understand your dysregulation. I want you to get to know your dysregulation. I want you to read the cues of your dysregulation, and I want you to use that as your blueprint to your body to then be able to show yourself safety, to then be able to regulate yourself around that thing, to then be able to move forward and feel regulated by that thing. If we were to, like I said, if we were to never feel dysregulation again, right? You're experiencing this, you're focusing on regulation, you're focusing on learning how to regulate yourself around the things that you want to move forward with, around the things that you no longer want to feel dysregulated by. I never want you to regulate yourself around being chased by a wild animal. That is not something that I ever want you to regulate yourself around. I want you to feel dysregulated by that. I want you to stay alive, right? It's not about not feeling dysregulated. It's about learning how to regulate yourself around the things that you want to be regulated by. It's about learning how to regulate yourself in the things that you want to move forward with, right? It's about understanding why you're dysregulated by this thing and getting to know yourself better because of that. Understand yourself better because of that dysregulation. Ooh, I'm feeling dysregulated by, going on this first date. Let's look at why. What are my fears? Where can I look into how I feel around this? What are my experiences around dating? You get to know yourself better when you listen to your dysregulation. And that is why nervous system work is so powerful, because it is the cue to getting to know yourself better. It's the cue to understanding all of your past experiences. Dysregulation is literally your body yelling at you, trying to tell you something about yourself. It's yelling at you, trying to tell you something that you have experienced or something that's in your subconscious that you may not even be aware of. So nervous system work is so powerful in understanding who you are at a deeper level. And then nervous system work is so powerful in being able to understand how to regulate and move forward in things that you're going to grow from, in things that you can achieve, right? So do not demonize dysregulation. Do not try to never feel dysregulated again. Embrace your dysregulation and then understand how to move forward from it. Understand what you need to do to move forward. Take action in your regulation and move forward with it. That is all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the episode as always. And as always, if you could be ever so kind to leave me a preferably 5-star review would be great. But more importantly, if you can follow and subscribe and do all of the things, that allows me to fulfill my purpose and my mission of getting this information out to as many people as I can, and both changing and saving the lives of as many people as I can. So thank you so much for giving a shit about your nervous system and your brain. Thank you so much for being here. Have a beautiful week ahead, and I will see you next week.